We wanted to talk about the key to understanding the psychology of Game of Thrones, Tyrion Lannister.
We want to talk about love and sex.
Hi everybody, hi Noga, boom, welcome to another On the Couch video. We're going back to Game of Thrones main characters. To understand a character, we want to go back to its past traumas.
Janu, Janu, please, I need to. You truly make me the happiest person on earth.
Last night I dreamt
So, his mom died giving birth to him.
that somebody loved me.
His father and sister blamed him for it.
You who killed your mother to come into the world, you are an ill-made, spiteful little creature.
None of your jokes will ever match the first one, will they? You remember, back when you ripped my mother open on your way out of her and she bled to death.
There are many things that can happen when one grows up without a mother. In Tyrion's case, it wasn't only the fact that he was the one supposedly responsible. Of course, how can you blame a baby? You know, he wasn't responsible for his mother's death, but he was blamed for it.
And he didn't decide even to be conceived. Nobody consulted him.
In Tyrion's case, there's also the fact that he's a dwarf. In Tyrion's case, there's also the fact that he's a dwarf. What? In Tyrion's case, there's also the fact that he's a dwarf.
Okay, good.
A great success!
Mothers are usually much more affectionate, not always, of course, towards defects with their children, with their babies.
Okay.
And they can love them and, you know, appreciate them in spite of these differences or faults or defects.
And to teach me humility, the gods have condemned me to watch you waddle about, wearing that proud lion that was my father's sigil and his father's before him.
There was no one there to admire him for who he is.
Yeah. He was the monster the moment he was born.
Exactly.
Before he even knew what he was, everybody knew that he was the monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Your head was a bit large, your arms and legs were a bit small, but no claw. No red eye, no tail between your legs, just a tiny pink cock. That's not a monster, I told Cersei. That's just a baby.
And that's a horrible way to start your life.
Wow, my goodness.
I mean, when you think about the way the mother treats the baby's body, you know, when she changes its diapers, you know, they kiss their bodies, they play with their bodies, they make them feel like they're the most beautiful thing in the world because that's how usually mothers see their babies. And when you don't have that, it influences your whole life from that moment forward.
Okay. So, and he didn't have like a father who took in that role and kissed him and told him how beautiful he was.
No.
I wanted to carry you into the sea and let the waves wash you away.
And that's a horrible way to start your life.
Wow, my goodness.
I want you to know what it's like to love someone, to truly love someone, before I take her from you.
And that's a horrible way to start your life.
Wow, my goodness. Yeah, some rough luck right there. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So he
Okay.
was the abject child from the moment he was born for so many reasons that were not up to him, you know. He didn't choose to be a dwarf. He didn't choose to have his mother die at giving birth to him.
But he did early on in life, not that early on, when he was a teenager, love a woman and get her to love him. But later, his brother told him, in the books we know that he lied to him on the orders of his father, told him that she was a prostitute that was paid to make believe as if she loved him, and then had to suffer torture, sexual assault and rape and all kinds of horrible stuff.
My father brought in my wife and gave her to his guards. He paid her well, silver for each man. He brought me into the barracks and made me watch.
This poor simple folk woman that we later learned really loved him.
Well, there's also a difference between the show and the books, right? Like in the books, we know that she wasn't really a prostitute, but in the show, she was that he told the story as if she was indeed a prostitute, and that's part of you can say part of the repetition compulsion thing. I mean, Tyrion was basically raised by women who got paid to raise him. In like the normal scheme of things, you're raised by people who love you, who have an interest to raise you. You know, mammals, we're born and we're helpless, and we need the love of the older mammal.
Okay.
That's their motivation to treat us. They raised them without love and affection,
right.
Like everything
with spite.
With spite.
Okay, you can live.
Mm-hmm. So he never experienced that kind of love. And we can see that later on he keeps seeking the love of women who are paid to love him.
Because he doesn't think that he can get love any other way.
Right. So he doesn't have that experience in his life. I mean, no one loved him.
So in the books, when he learned, when Jaime told him that this young woman really loved him, and not only did she love him, the way that she fell in love with him is when he rescued her from rape. So he was like a big man, a big hero when he saved her.
Right.
So that was like kind of like the perfect thing for him. But knowing what we know now about the story, obviously Tywin is not going to say, my youngest son wants to marry some woman. Okay, he loves her. That's fine.
True love, you know.
True love. No.
And it is past time you were wed.
I was wed. Oh, don't you remember?
Only too well.
There's a game to be played here, and your little affections about the woman. Finally, a woman wants you for who you are. He doesn't care about that at all.
He was again lied to. I mean, he thought that he found someone who truly loved him, and he learned from that
Right.
I mean, there is no
Right.
such thing. No such thing exists for him.
Right, it already shaped him. Okay, and in the show,
He keeps going to prostitutes.
And what do I get?
More gold than you can spend if you lived 1,000 years. The pleasure of my company, which I have heard is spectacular.
Who told you this? Women you paid?
With Shay, again, he had this kind of process
I am a
where
whore.
he thought he had love. He thought he found someone who truly loved him. And at the end, she told in front of everyone that she never really truly loved him. She only faked it. All the things that she said to him were supposedly things that he made her say.
yeah.
And that's like the biggest fear, right? I mean, but it's the fear of all of us. That's what I want to say. It's not only
Okay.
Tyrion's fear. And that fear is the fear of the enigmatic aspects of the other.
The enigmatic aspects of the other, that you never really know
Right.
what they're thinking.
What they're thinking. Also, it starts with the baby. It's Galit Atlas, who is a psychoanalyst, Israeli-American, living in New York and working in New York. She wrote she wrote an excellent book about it called The Enigma of Desire.
Okay.
And basically what she says is that the way that we make love, in a way, sex, is part of our own relational patterns. We try to solve things through the way that we make love. Sex.
Okay.
And it's different from the Freudian way of looking at sex.
The way we have sex, we try to deal with shit. Okay.
We try to deal with shit. And it's different from the Freudian view of why we have sex, right? Because the classical psychoanalysis emphasized the instincts. We have the love and death instinct.
Okay.
And the libido makes us want to have sex also. It's like the life energy, life force.
But you have different ways of having sex.
Well, Freud didn't look at it that way. He only looked at perversions, right? But that's a different thing. I mean, it's not only about perversions. It's about the way we, about relationality, about the way we treat the other and the way we're treated by them. And that can solve things. I mean, with Freud, it was just about you have this kind of discomfort because you're aroused and you want to reach a climax and reach again a homeostasis.
Okay, whatever.
But relationality is much more about the way that we relate to others during intercourse.
Okay.
And what we want to achieve.
Sex. Just I want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yes, I'm talking about sex.
Okay.
And that we try to solve things or heal things through the other. It's not only who we fall in love with, right? Because Freud said also we fall in love with people who remind us of our parents.
Okay.
But the way that we make love to them.
Okay.
Sex. Okay. I mean, relationality, it does say that sex in a way is making love, even if it's just with someone that you don't know, it's a one-night stand or whatever, but it's still repeating the patterns of love that you had in your childhood.
Okay.
And different patterns of love, different kinds of relationality.
Yeah, I get that. So I wanted to say something that I was reminded of when you said earlier about the enigmatic
aspect
of the other. That I had a girlfriend once who, when I asked her questions in her sleep, if the answer was yes, she would nod, and if the answer was no, then she wouldn't. She just wouldn't.
How did you
nod.
find out about that?
I don't know. I guess I just told her stuff in her sleep, and I saw that she. So I would ask, "Do you love me?" And then I really knew. And when she was angry with me, "Do you love me?" And then she didn't say. She didn't.
Ambivalence. Oh, that's sweet. With Tyrion, we can say that he developed the Madonna horror complex.
Explain, please.
The Madonna horror complex was first discovered by Freud.
Not by Jesus?
Not by Jesus, no. Jesus knew about it, but he didn't say anything about it. He kept it to himself.
I'm not the Messiah!
Because Freud discovered that there is a kind of impotence which is not physical, but it's emotional. It was with a patient that said that he couldn't really have sex with his wife, but he had all kinds of sexual fantasies and he could have sex with prostitutes. Freud discovered that it's a very common thing, that there's this kind of like split between the admired woman, and she's like a sacred woman, and she's like the mother, and she's this and she's that, and she's
perfect, and she takes care of the children. Yeah.
And the debased prostitute, right? The debased whore. It's like the one that you do the dirty things with, right? Because sex is considered dirty.
Right. So and this complex is alive and well and kicking today.
Of course.
It can reside in the same woman, the way that society gazes at them, or a different woman. You are a bad woman if you do that, you're a good woman if you do that. And then, so if you're a perfect Madonna, then you're not allowed to do the dirty things, right? And if you're a dirty woman, then you're not allowed to be the face of good and polite society.
Right, yeah. So with Tyrion, we can say that he has that kind of complex. I mean, we know where it comes from. It's not only...
Why?
My theory is that when he, for example, didn't want to sleep with Sansa, I mean, when we saw it, it was like very admirable, right? Like, he doesn't want to sleep with the underage. But it could be that he couldn't see himself with her even. He couldn't look at her in a sexual way because she was noble, because she was equal to him in status.
And also because she's kind of like a Madonna in her, in her energy, in her vibe.
It was like you're either a Madonna or you're a whore, and you know that you're a whore because you get paid to have sex. It's part of the wish sometimes when you have the repetition compulsion thing. It's like you have a pattern, and your wish is for it to be solved in a way, and to transcend it. So it's the same with Shay. Like, it's the fantasy that you would go to a woman, you would pay to her, she would pretend to love you, but then she will actually fall in love with you, and she wouldn't want to take your money anymore.
So what happened after he climbed up the tower and rescued her?
She rescues him right back.
And also with the therapist, you have that kind of fantasy also. You go to a therapist, you pay them, but you have the fantasy of them loving you so much that at one point they won't want to charge you for it. I just love listening to you so much. And I mean, we do love our patients very much, but it's...
Not that much though.
Well, we have to make a living also. It's not and it's not really good for them either. Like,
So you said he solved this conflict in the 8th season, but I don't remember him having sex at all in the 8th season. And he even hints that he will never have sex with prostitutes anymore.
I was a drunken whoremonger.
It was all so simple.
Well, my golden lion days are done, but whoremongering is still an option for you.
It's not. Things would be easier if it were.
So if not with prostitutes, then with whom, you know? I think that when he told Sansa...
Maybe we should have stayed married.
It wouldn't work between us.
He expressed in a way his ability to be in a sexual loving relationship
with a gorgeous rich woman. Wow.
Well, with a Madonna.
Madonna.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so but that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So if not her, then nobody else?
No, we hope that it will happen. But I mean, obviously, not having sex is not the solution. I mean, he would. The solution to that is to be able to have a relationship with a whole person, right? Who has also sexual and sacred parts. Or with prostitutes, they are objects, right? They are radical objects. Because we don't know about their lives, we don't know about their heart, we don't want to know about their lives and hardships and everything. We don't want to know even what they think about us, right? I mean, we just want them. We want to come in and have the illusion of someone, like you said, who is completely into us.
Right.
Thinks our body is amazing, our performance is outstanding, everything about us is wonderful. Yeah. And
that's sexy for us.
And that's sexy for us, yeah. And. We all want that in a way, right? But the ideal way to achieve that is to have someone who can be both an object and a subject to us, that can maintain that kind of tension. I mean, people around us, the important people in our lives, are also objects. Our partners, you know, they can't do anything they want to do because we depend on them. We need them as objects as well. But if we see them solely as objects, then we miss their subjectivity.
Right.
And, you know, the fact that they have thoughts, feelings.
Right. Like you were late today.
Yeah.
But you are under a lot of stress.
Yes, exactly.
So I understand.
Yes, because I am an object to you also, because I'm your partner in shooting these videos, yeah. But I'm also a subject because I'm your friend, and you know what I'm going through, and you can uphold that kind of tension between the subject and object. But it's very difficult for many people. I'm not saying that everyone that goes to prostitutes has the same thing, but I think that this is something that is common to all of us, that we need to have the other as a secure base, what is called a secure attachment pattern, in order to contain or withstand their subjectivity and the enigmatic parts of it that are associated with it, right? Because maybe when I was late, then you had these kind of thoughts of like, maybe, you know, she doesn't give a damn about me. Yeah. She doesn't
respect my time.
Doesn't respect my time. And maybe, you know, maybe I'm just, I'm thinking also I have this baggage, or I have this, or I have that, and I'm expressing it in this way or the other. Those kinds of thoughts that people sometimes have about other people are part of their enigmatic aspects. If we knew everything about the other, then we wouldn't have these kind of thoughts, we would just know. So containing this enigmatic aspects of the other is very difficult. And with prostitutes, we don't need to contain that, right? I mean, they're objects. They can, you know, if they disappoint us or they don't treat us the way we want to, we just replace them. You know, even if in the middle of sex we can replace them, sometimes it's cool. You know, it doesn't matter who that person is. It's an object. And with subjects, it's if we want them, we're dependent on them, right? I mean, because we need that specific person.
Yes.
We want that person,
yes.
And then we're dependent on it. We're vulnerable. It hurts. Having a secure attachment pattern is having a representation of others as like a secure shore.
A partner, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a wife, a husband, whatever.
Yeah, but also friends. I mean, you know, anyone that we have an emotional relationship with.
Okay.
And
like a shore.
Like a shore. We know that they're there, and we can roam from them, we know we have a place to return to because they're secure. There's a base that we can go back to.
Okay.
But when we don't have that kind of secure attachment pattern,
like Tyrion, for example,
then it's also difficult for us to roam away from the partner, but it's also difficult to contain the parts where the partner roams away from us, right? Because we all have in relationships a certain dynamics of, I call it dialectics between engagement and disengagement.
Just 1 second. So when Jamie told him in the books, Jamie was kind of sure. Told him, you know what, I was lying for you. You know what, I was lying to you your entire life. And your greatest love was your greatest love. She wasn't a whore. And he, as far as we know, we haven't read the final books, but he couldn't forgive him. He wanted to kill him. Wanted to kill him. He hates him now.
Yeah.
Because that's like, he was the only person that Tyrion thought, and this is true, that really cares for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can understand why Jamie also was young, was 17, 18, lied because his father made him. We can understand
of course.
that. Okay.
Yeah, but that's devastating. These incidents are devastating, you know. But we don't need to be devastated in order to have these kinds of little traumatic events with others in our lives. I mean,
and this is not little, so sorry to interrupt you again, but so he did have a shore with this young woman that was really in love with him, but he himself participated unwittingly, unwillingly, because he didn't trust her, and because was manipulated to believe that he had that she was just another woman that was getting paid, and she was the exception to the rule. She could have saved him emotionally.
So then it becomes like the lost land, right? I mean, he found the shore, he found an island, he roamed away from it because he didn't think it was a real island, but then he discovered that it was, and in the books he keeps looking for her, right? Yeah. She's like his holy grail, like the emotional fulfillment.
Yeah. Where do whores go?
Where do whores go? Yeah.
That's what his dad told him. Okay. So how do you solve this?
But before that, I want to go back to the difficulty to contain the dialectics of this engagement and disengagement with the other. Okay. Like the other, I mean, it's very natural in a relationship to have a kind of dynamics where you're together, and then one part is a bit distant, and then he comes back, and the other is a bit distant. They come back, and we all have this kind of dynamics between us, between the way we see our partners, but also mainly because there's life, all kinds of things. And in a secure attachment pattern, you can contain these kinds of like pulling away and getting back together much more flexibly, because you know that they will return, right? They're having a difficult week, but they will come back to me. But for people that don't have that kind of secure attachment, it's extremely difficult. So in the extremes of relating to this kind of situation, we can see either the obsessive need to control the other, to pursue them, in a way that like if they withdraw, then you go after them and you're like, what are you thinking? What are you doing this? You were looking at her, you were doing this or whatever, this kind of like, I want to know what's in your mind because I can't stand the enigmatic aspects of you and I need to know everything in order to feel safe. So that's one pattern. Okay. The other one is complete withdrawal, right? I don't need others in my life. I don't want to be dependent on anyone because I can't stand this kind of like pulling away. I mean, even if I'm with someone, then I want to know that I'm with them. And because you can't really know for sure, so since you can't really know for sure, you might as well just not get into a relationship at all because it's too painful. Relationships are too painful. And but these are extremes. I mean, we all deal with these kinds of shifts in a different way to different degrees, depending on the relationship itself, our own relational history, and it is difficult. I mean, relationships are difficult.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
Okay, I love these videos. I love these videos. So this is we could talk about Tyrion for another 30 minutes. But let's wrap it up. Thank you, Noga. I feel like I was in therapy. I hope you guys enjoyed the video too. And if you have and you've lasted up to this moment, then maybe you want to consider becoming a patron, going to patreon.com/GothAcademy, and you can write me or Noga a message. If you write on me on Patreon, I'll message Noga on Patreon. She loves interacting with the patrons. And subscribe to get all our videos, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Wow, that was a great video. Great video. Wow. I really feel like you want to share this video with your friends, right? On your social media platform. I can sense that. Yeah. You better do that. You'll feel better.